Hello, everyone. I'm Donna Gaines, president of Sage Collective, and welcome to our program this evening, Caregivers and Self-Care and How You Can Find Balance in the Journey. We're so excited to have this conversation. As you just saw, approximately 63 million Americans are caregivers, whether that's for members of their family or people with disabilities or even chronic illnesses. And if any of you have been a caregiver or you probably know someone who has been, you know that it is a full-time job, whether you're managing medications or running errands or going to the doctor's office. It's a selfless job. And the thing is, caregivers need self-care too. So tonight, we're going to have a conversation about that. And November is National Family Caregivers Month. And so we wanted to make sure that we honor caregivers because they are so deserving. But in particular, we wanted to dedicate tonight's presentation to caregivers and a very special set of caregivers that I want to acknowledge, which is the SAGE team. Each of them, interestingly, are their caregivers or have been caregivers to close family members. And so much of what we do and we decided to do around our caregiver support program is really because of the conversations we've had internally. So I want to take a moment to recognize and dedicate tonight's program to our SAGE team members, Kathy Watkins Richardson, Mike Brown, Dana Metzger, Lauren Smith, Sarah Gerald, Dwayne Kyles, Lauren Buford, and Dimitri Williams. We want to thank you all for your service. So, with that, I want to talk about with our guests, who I'll bring on in a moment, some practical tools and strategies that you can use in your daily work with your loved ones. And we know that when caregivers are cared for, everyone benefits. So tonight, we have two very important and very special guests. Joining me on stage is Dr. Genevieve Thomas. And Dr. Thomas is a former nurse and caregiver who actually returned to school in her 60s to get her doctorate. Such an inspiration. And now she currently teaches mental health at Chamberlain University. And we also have Mrs. Shara McNabb, who also happens to be a former registered nurse. She's a philanthropist, an entrepreneur, experienced caregiver. And I have to give this little plug. Back in the day, I don't know if you all remember Mama McNabb for the Campbell's soup commercials, but she used to have Mama's Boys. And I think she was caregiving even back in the day. But she happens to be the mother of Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Donovan McNabb. So both of them, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And Genevieve, you've been a guest before. And Shar, thank you for joining us.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great to be here.
Hmm.
So it just so happens that both of these ladies are friends. They're both dear friends of mine, and I just have to tell you some of the funniest people I have ever met. So we may have a few laughs, but we've also had a lot of conversations, serious conversations, because both of them have cared for or are caring for their husbands. So they have a lot of hands-on experience and a lot of experience in terms of just their own nursing background. So with that, I have a threshold question for you ladies, and that is I wanted to know, given that caregiving is a full time job and it's a very stressful job, what do you think? And I'll start with you, Genevieve. What do you think some of the impacts are on one's health, just their physical health or mental health from caregiving?
Yeah. Well, certainly I see man as and anyone as a biopsychosocial individual. So your psychological, your physical, everything is affected when your equilibrium is tapped into, meaning a major change in life, like a loved one, your husband, your spouse, being sick all of a sudden to the degree that they need special care, and you have to make major decisions about, am I going to care for them, or am I able to care for them and meet their needs, and as well, or do I need to find a place for that person? So you go through a lot of emotional changes, just getting used to the fact that, okay, I've decided that I'm going to be the caregiver for a person. And when you go through any kind of major change in life like that, you have to get past the emotional, because you've got to start thinking about, what it is that you're going to do. And you many times don't even recognize that physically your body is now responding to how you're feeling.
Mm.
um, and that can come in the form of your blood pressure being high, feeling extremely tired and anxious all of the time,
Mhm.
um, and not even recognizing that that's going on. It can take a toll on you, to the degree that you may have to seek care for yourself. Once you get a hold of that, then you can start to relax and put things in place, and breathe a little bit easier. But that's why, and I'm sure we'll talk about it a little bit more. But that's why we have to pay attention to our own physiological needs. It can cause stomach problems if you start having more issues around, with your gut, with your bowel,
Mhm.
headaches, fatigue, irritability. All of those kinds of things can lead to physiological changes that can sometimes become chronic for the caregiver. And so you do have to pay attention to how you're feeling, because that's where it will start, and then it will affect the body.
I'd like to just kind of tune in
Thank you,
on
Joshua. I saw
that.
you nodding your head.
Yeah, to tune in on that. And when she says that gut problem, yes, I established or ended up with a gut problem, and anxiety is I do that have that a lot. It's just in my chest sometimes with what's going on, and it's kind of hard. I think one of the things that I wanted to stress was being a nurse can be detrimental to being a caregiver.
Hmm.
It's like a detriment. You know why? Because you know too much, and you foresee, you look ahead on what could
Mm.
occur, what could happen, and that's kind of that gives you anxiety, nothing but anxiety at all. And so, really, you have to be careful with that. Sometimes you got to put that nursing over here. You try to, but it's really difficult. You taking a blood pressure or you taking a blood sugar, and well, we can't do this. We're going to have to do something different. So sometimes being a nurse can be detrimental to a caregiver.
That's really interesting, and that's serious. And some of the things that you talked about, both of you, to me, relate back to stress. And you know how people say the stress kills, but we, like you say, we ignore that little headache, or we ignore the fact, oh, I skipped this meal, I'll make it
Hmm.
up tomorrow, or you don't sleep well, but you have to get up the next morning and start all over again, right?
That's right.
So when you do realize that you need to take some time for yourself, I think sometimes people feel guilty. If you have to leave the person with someone else, are they going to care for them the way I would? And God forbid something happens, right? And they're not under your watch. So I guess my question to you, Shar, since you mentioned, how sometimes it affects you physically,
Hmm.
things that you do in terms of practicing self-care. I mean, how do you try to alleviate some of those feelings of anxiety?
My doctor told me a while back, because I've been doing this and didn't realize, and Genevieve brought it up to me one day, that I've been doing this for quite a while. You know, way before he had the surgery, the major surgery, we were trying to get it together. I used to tell people, I'm just trying to get him to 100%, but I was just like on a treadmill. It's like you're running, you get to 80, and then something else happens. So anxious anxiety is a big thing. And as a doctor told my doctor always told me, she said, you got to take care of you first. because otherwise you won't be showing up tomorrow. Now, if I don't
Mm.
show up tomorrow, what's going to happen? Because I'm dependent on. So you have to practice some kind of self-care, and I'm getting better at it. I have to allow myself to go to bed to get some sleep. Sometimes I leave him and I'm like, good night, because I've been up 12, 13 hours running, getting your medicine here and getting yours, because besides one thing, he's got many things going on. So, but the way I do, I kind of take time for myself. I rest, I sleep, I like to watch movies. That helps me out. I told him I like cartel movies. um, I'm going to be a part of the cartel. Talking about, why? How you going to do this? You can't shoot. I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do stuff. It's exciting. It's an exciting life. But I love those kind of movies, and I love movies the kind where they're in Australia. You get to see different countries, and you get to see the environment, because maybe I can't travel like I used to. Back in the day, I always say when we were balling, we went places, and now we don't get to go like that anymore, because he can't. I can't leave him alone, kind of thing. So you go out with the girls, so you probably see me. A lot of you, my friends that are on here, they gonna see me at the Funky Biscuit, or they gonna see me on Motown Monday, and I'm gonna just dance,
Mhm.
dance, dance until I can't dance no more, till it's time to go home.
Yeah.
So I do find ways to
Mhm.
kind of take time for practice self-care,
Yeah.
and that came with, as the years and the time came to
Mhm.
to acquire that,
Yeah.
because I didn't know how to say no, and if we talked about guilt, I felt guilty, you
Mhm.
know and
Mm.
he wasn't very happy about me going either. You'd have to hear that yaddy yaddy yaddy. So anyway, I'm better
Mhm.
now. I've
Yeah.
gotten better now, and I appreciate the fact
Yeah.
that I'm kind of hopefully settling myself out.
I just
Well, you
recently had an experience with a friend of mine, um, an acquaintance. We went on a short trip, a few ladies, and one of the ladies was sharing that her husband has been sick for quite a few years with a rare disease that affects his muscles, and he's at a point where he's bedbound and basically can't do anything but just open his eyes.
mm,
And I asked her, did she feel guilty? How did she feel about being away from him, not knowing, what could happen at any time? And it was so refreshing to hear her talk about the fact that he's been sick for so long, and she has come to a place with God that she said, I don't feel guilty. I know God knows that I want the best for him and that I want to be there with him should he transition.
Yeah.
And so I know that if he transitions while I'm not there, um, then it was not meant to be. But
Hmm.
if he transitions, does not, then I know God wants me to be with him. And she was just as relaxed and settled in that. And all I could see was she has really come to a point where so many caregivers have, still have struggles.
Yeah.
And so I think, subscribing to a higher power, subscribing to whatever your belief is, but knowing that you are not everything.
Yeah.
Everything is not dependent upon you.
Yeah.
What's going to happen is going to happen. And so trying not to control everything. I think as nurses, I think we see ourselves as, strong and able to do whatever. Even the school I teach for, their theme with the nurses is nurse strong.
Hmm.
But we are human beings
Yeah.
that, have psychological needs as well as anybody else. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. um,
well, that's important. And thank you both for sharing, because one of the things that came to mind while you were talking is the difference between caregivers who sometimes have a short journey because maybe their loved one has been diagnosed with a terminal illness, right? So you kind of see an end in sight. And I think in the case of Shar, as she mentioned, she was kind of caregiving and doing caregiving types of duties before it really became even as critical and necessary as it is now. And so she's kind of on a longer journey. And
Mm.
whereas her goal was, well, let's just get back to 100% and then life goes on, it's like we're going to get to 100%, but it's going to take us a longer time to get there, maybe. And so that's really interesting because I think when we think of caregiving, we just kind of lump it all together. But in reality, everyone's experience and journey is different, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Yes.
those long-term journeys, that's something to reckon with. When you
Yeah.
kind
Mhm.
of realize you've got to be in it for the long haul, makes those vows or those commitments that we make to people we care about very meaningful. You know?
Yeah. The
Yeah.
I'm going to
chronicity.
take
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Say that again, Genevieve.
I was just saying the chronicity of what you are going through, Shar, and for how long it's been. It makes a big difference. You've moved from here, which a lot of people don't know that, but you've moved
Mhm.
away from a stronger support system than you once had, and that makes a big difference as well. So, as you say, everybody's situation is different, and but I think what continues to be most important is the guilt aspect, and trying to get past that. You can't feel guilty of continue to allow yourself to feel guilty about things that you necessarily cannot control,
Yeah.
and that's difficult to overcome regardless of the situation.
And I received that. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
I just want to make a couple of comments. Alicia Whittington says, Mama McNabb. Exclamation point. Irish McCrae Jones says, thanks for sharing this much needed information. We have a lot of people saying thank you. Monique, Sister Namik says, why doesn't society talk about this more? Aging and caregiving are two inevitable facts of life. That's a very good point. I'm going to come back to that. Someone else, Patricia Thomas says the caregiving, not eating and sleeping properly as a caregiver, that's really critical.
Mhm.
But and then Monique again says, I appreciate your honesty, Shar. And it's the guilt that weighs on you. We hear that quite a bit. So why do you think that we're not talking about this? In fact, Lauren, could you throw that infographic up for a moment? Because I think that's a very good question. Why don't we talk about this more? There's 63 million people. That's a lot. And by the way, unpaid caregivers and the cost, the economic cost of that is in the billions of dollars. What do you think we need to do to make this something that people talk about and that we can advocate for more policies, more funding, more support for caregivers?
Hmm. Well,
You see,
doing as we do now, just like you're doing, having these podcasts and caregivers, and on social media, I see a lot of caregivers now. These
Mhm.
smartphones, these smart things, they tap into what you have going on, and I do see more than I've ever seen before. But I probably didn't look for it, because I wasn't in the situation.
Mhm.
So once you get in that situation, then you see more, that are more people in there, people taking care of their parents, taking care of their spouse, taking care of their children. And it's a hard pill, but somehow we get through it. I
yeah,
guess we
yeah,
get through it. We'll try to get through it.
yeah. The other thing is that most states have departments on aging, and many of us don't even tap in to those kind of resources. We just, I know for me, that's what I did. I mean, I just took care of my husband myself. I didn't go to any kind of agency to ask for help or anything like that. But I, had a bit of a network of helpers if I chose to. So I think if we tap into those kinds of organizations, making them aware that there are needs and that we have needs, um, that might bring more awareness to it.
Yeah.
Home health agencies, they are big on taking care of the elderly, for example, and are connected to agencies like that because they help get the care for the patients that they serve. And I think that we have to continue to tap into them and make them aware, but for people that are professionals in the area, if we would write more about the circumstances that we experience and some of the caregiving that we know about, and making people aware on social media, which is obviously where, many of the people who just made comments, that's where they have found this talk. Um, then more people are aware that it's going on. But one thing I found out during the time I was caregiving, that's when I found out that there were so many people that I knew that had been caregivers or were
Yeah.
currently caregivers.
Mhm.
It is an enormous, but it was predicted. This was
Yeah.
predicted years and years ago. As people age, that's what you find is going on. So um, and a lot of people don't prepare for it. Long-term care insurance was something that would be helpful in getting respite and that kind of thing. So, but a lot of people don't do what needs to be done. We don't think about our mortality and morbidity
Right.
early on. We don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about some resources. And what I want to do, first of all, well, a couple of more comments, questions. Dwayne Kyle says, does the fact that so many of our caregivers are women contribute to the lack of national attention to this crisis? Do you think that plays into it all? That's interesting that a man would pose that question.
Hmm. Yeah.
Any
I've
thoughts
seen
on
on
that?
social media though, men, sons taking care of their mother and father. They have the both of them, and they have a family, a wife and children, but they had to move in with their parents because both of them needed that help. And I
Mhm.
know personally that I've seen young men take care of their mothers, take care of their grandmothers. So I have seen men there, and really, you need a man because there's a lot of lifting, a lot of heavy work that needs to be
Yeah.
done. If you're in a house, now you're changing light bulbs and taking out garbage, and and you're doing the driving, the things that usually things that a man would do, you have to do. So
Mhm.
it is I do see men, but you see women, but you do see men too
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going
Unfortunately,
to.
I just know too many people, uh, females,
Yeah.
that are taking care or have taken care of their husbands, and that really disturbs me. It's like, why are so many of our females losing their spouses and significant others, and are the caretakers versus men? I don't know if it was just designed that way or what, but that has been a question that I've had for a while, for a long time.
Mm.
I think maybe it is shifting, and Monique, Sister Namik says more and more men are in fact caregiving, as Shar said, and Black men
Mhm.
are a fast growing caregiver group.
Yeah.
So that's good to know because I have two sons. So
Hmm. Hmm.
that'll be good. They'll maybe take their own mom in. I'd like you all to continue to make comments, ask questions. I'm going to take a moment to pause and share a video with you about the importance of self care, and then we'll be right back with a few more questions for our guests, Dr. Genevieve Thomas and Wilma Shar McNabb.
Everyone experiences burnout at one time or another. Our friends, loved ones, and even health professionals try to help by offering suggestions like, you need to exercise, or try listening to your favorite music. These are helpful ideas, but the benefits often only last for a few hours. Then the fatigue settles in again. Enduring self care is recommended because you can actually rewire your brain. Activities like mindfulness, body scans, deep breathing exercises, and meditation can help you to achieve peace and inner control. Rather than feeling agitated, you can experience calm. Instead of feeling depressed and hopeless, you can experience appreciation for the present. Enduring self care can change your attitude toward life.
Indeed. Welcome back, everyone. We're talking about caring for the caregivers and how you find balance in this journey of caregiving. With me tonight is Dr. Thomas, Dr. Genevieve Thomas, and Shar McNabb. And we've been talking about how caregiving can feel isolating, but also how having support can really make all the difference in the world. And so it makes you wonder, while you're busy caring for the person who needs care, who's caring for you, right? Because that's so important. So with that, I wanted to ask Shar, um, how can caregivers develop a support network? I know that on occasion you travel, or like you say, you may go out with the girls and do a girl. So how does that work for you? How do you find the support you need so that you can leave and not feel guilty about leaving the house?
Well, what you have to do is start with the people you already know. You know, the people that are in your circle. And as Genevieve said, I moved from one state to another where I had a whole community of friends and family that I knew would be able to assist me. But I'm here kind of isolated from them. So, in order for them to help me, they travel, and a lot of them will come and help me. But I've gained some friends here, and I do have people that come and help me. I know I can call someone and say, "Can you come and sit with him while I go to a meeting, or I go to, I'm going out to dinner, and I know it's going to be a little while." And so I do have people here that I can call. Friends can come and they'll sit with him while I go out. I talk to other caregivers as well, who when you need to just share some of your feelings, and get them off your chest, kind of let some steam off. There are other caregivers that I can call, and some people that have that psychological background. I can call Genevieve. Sometimes I'll call her and she in the middle of church, but I'll give her a text and she'll call me back. So you do find people that can help you. I know I'm in a different situation, but I also think, I know I don't feel bad. I'm not angry at myself for moving, because I don't think I could have done this with that cold and snow and ice, because
Mm,
I have to do a lot of driving and travel. So I'm
mhm.
blessed to be able to be in a warm climate where I can get out, that I can get him where he needs to go without worrying about that cold and ice and slippering and that kind of thing. So I'm not ungrateful that we have moved away. I do miss my friends and I do miss my community, but people will come. They will come if I need them. Like I had to go to Chicago last week. And so one of my sons came. My sons will come. I have two sons like you, Donna. And so one of them will come. Or I got Nate. I have, Genevieve when she can. Or, so I have people that will come. It's just not as often as I need it. And sometimes I can't do everything that I would like to do. But if I get them to just do sometimes, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that. So,
And sometimes that's just, somebody that can prepare a meal for you, so that you don't have to cook all the time. I mean, sometimes it's not even just sitting there with you or giving you time for respite care, but just doing tasks, stopping by the grocery store,
yeah,
so that you don't have to make another run,
Right.
right? For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Genevieve, what are your thoughts about having a support network and how people can cultivate the kind of support they need?
Yeah. Again, from a professional point of view, one of the things I wonder, Shar, if you had ever thought about was talking with home care agencies because they can tell you about respite. Um,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I've done that. I've
yeah.
done that. And we had home care in the beginning, but
Okay.
I I'm still dealing with that. And we have home care now. We have a nurse come in because we
Okay.
have some issues that go on. So we do have home care, and I do know about that. So, and then I have camera. If I step out
Mhm.
and I'm wondering what's going on, I'll turn on a camera or two. I know I went with the girls one time and we were going to go one place and then go to another place. And I'm looking at the camera and I'm seeing him fumbling, bumbling, dumbling. And I just started crying. So I'm like, I gotta go. I can't go with you all. You know, I can't go with you now. So anyway, it is what it is.
And
Well, there are
that's what
also,
the, yeah, go ahead. Go
and
ahead.
I was going to say, there are also organizations that people can reach out to, like AARP or the
Mhm.
Family Caregiver Alliance, Caregiver Action Network. And I
Yeah.
think they have
Yeah.
resources available to you as
There
well.
are a lot
Okay.
of
So
resources
those,
out there. They are a
Yeah.
lot of resources.
Yeah.
I
You know,
think the challenge is finding them. I feel like, I have a lot of conversations weekly with people who are looking for places where they can place a parent, for example,
mm,
that's affordable, clean, and accommodating all of those things. And it's just not that easy to find. So I do think that, to the extent that we can communicate, and thank you for mentioning Sage Collective and our caregiver support program, because that's why we formed it, because we wanted to be able to provide credible information to people, have guests like yourselves who are in the trenches, on the ground, boots on the ground, doing this every day. If I might take just one moment, Patricia Thomas says Catholic Charities is a
mhm,
resource that you could avail
Mhm.
yourselves of.
mhm,
Sure.
And then Dana Mesker just made a comment saying that we were talking about men as caregivers, and she said we have new neighbors who moved in about a month ago, and their mom passed, and their dad has ALS, so they decided to buy a house so they can all live together and take care of
mhm,
their father. So again,
mhm.
kind of creative ways of caring. I know a lot of people don't want to move to a nursing home, and yet sometimes that becomes unavoidable, or assisted living. There may come a point where you have to do that. And I think one of the most heartbreaking things is to take someone you love and take them out of their familiar surroundings to a place that's unfamiliar and then say goodbye.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
Mhm.
know, they're crying, you're crying.
Yeah.
It's not an easy situation.
And
You
that's a
know,
sad situation
also,
too.
beyond just the formal home care workers that come out that are paid by insurance and that kind of thing, many times you can find one of those workers, especially when you've used them a great deal, that you can trust. And in terms of establishing some time for yourself, if you
Yeah.
find someone that you trust to stay
Yeah.
for a couple of hours, do it whether there's a task or a plan. Just give yourself those 2 hours or 4 hours and pay them privately. And
Yeah.
you have to take care of yourself, and that's what we're talking about:
That's true.
self-care.
Self-care.
That's
And
Mhm.
and pay for that person to stay, whether you have anything to do or not. Go sit at
yeah.
Starbucks and have a cup of coffee and sit by the water and enjoy the sun outside or whatever. But
That's right. We got beaches down here. So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, go to the beach. Well,
Yeah.
I love those. Those are all great suggestions. And I think when we think about finding balance, sometimes it's hard to think about joy. It's hard to think about laughing because every day is a challenge, very stressful at times and sobering, sad, all the things. So, how do you find joy? How do you carve out moments, like you say, go to the beach or just sit and have a cup of coffee. But Genevieve, what would you suggest in terms of finding joy in this journey?
Now, my definition of joy might be a little different than what other people might say. Um, I found joy in just the fact that I was able to do what I did. And that's because I had had so many challenges with two hip replacements and back surgery that happened right before my husband was diagnosed. And I was just so grateful that God knew ahead of time what was
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah,
And He positioned me to be able to take care of him. Um, that in and of itself for me was brought me joy and gave me peace. Um, but my real joy ongoing comes from above. Knowing that I'm alive, that I'm able to do things, knowing that my loved one will be taken care of, that the circumstances that we're in, so many other people have it so much worse. um Gratefulness, and I heard Shar say, she's just, believe me, I'm just grateful.
yes,
That gratefulness will bring you joy because you'll start looking at what is good versus the doom and gloom of taking care of someone.
yes,
So once you get finished with the tasks that are uh not necessarily palatable, then you just kind of focus on the good things that you have,
mm-hmm,
the time that you have to spend with that person.
mm-hmm,
And you add to that by, having your private time. You might like music. You might want to listen to a book while you're preparing meals and, running around doing laundry and all of that kind of thing so that you can focus on things outside of yourself and outside of the situation to help keep you calm.
Mm,
That those things
yeah.
will be helpful.
yeah. I like that.
What
I
about
like
you,
to listen
Shar?
to music. I like at night, I listen to 90s, the 90s music and where all the words and
Yeah.
all and
Or you think you know the words, right? Because then when you find out what the lyrics are, you
for real,
They're
for
not
real.
rapping.
So I do, and I'm joyful for the season that we're about to go in. I love Christmas time. It's a happy time, and so I'm getting ready for the season. As you decorate and you bring things around, and I'm happy that he's able to get take care. He can shower himself and feed himself, and I don't have to do. And I'm happy for that. I'm grateful for that.
yeah.
It's a blessing that he's not totally dependent, and then we go out a lot to eat, and sometimes he'll say, you want to go, let's not, don't cook today, let's go out. He'll, come up and say, let's go out to eat, let's get out of the house.
Right.
And so I'm happy about that, so I'm joyful for the season, as I said. I'm
Yeah.
joyful for this podcast that you've had for me to be able to
Thank you.
even voice it, to
Mhm.
get it off, get that strain. Because sometimes I saw you have an emotional numbness, and you don't think that just talking about it will relieve that emotional numbness, to get to smile and talk
Mhm.
to ladies, like that. And know that you got friends and you got people out there like Alicia Whittington and all of that listen and hear. So the anxiety has been released tonight, at least, even
Oh,
if
I'm
it's
glad to know
temporary.
that.
Even if
I,
it's temporary, it's a
mm,
help. So tonight I won't be anxious. I will be full of joy and happiness as we move on.
well, we do. We're starting a support group so that we can come together and kind of have these conversations. So I'd certainly want to make sure I let you ladies know about it so that you can participate with us. One of the things, and we were talking a few weeks ago about this topic, had to do with celebrating the moments in your life. And so, if I could share, Shar, you mentioned that it was your anniversary coming up and that your husband wanted to go out, but you didn't feel like he was quite physically ready. And so Genevieve said, well, even if you can't go out to dinner, get dressed up, have dinner in, right? But celebrate, because don't let your situation or your condition prevent you from searching for joy and finding joy. But most importantly, tomorrow's not promised. We don't
Yeah.
know what's down the road.
Yeah.
As you say, all of this changed in a heartbeat for you, Genevieve. And Shar. One day life is going great, next day you get a diagnosis, right? So we
Mhm.
really have to celebrate
Yes.
every moment that we can with the people we love. I really truly believe that, and I hope if there's any takeaway tonight for our guests, in addition to making sure that you're taking care of yourself, it's really about finding that balance. Just a
That's
couple more comments. Dwayne actually asked a question about faith, and so interestingly enough, Genevieve, you talked about the importance of having faith, and if you don't have anything else, you have to rely on that, right? Mike
That's
Brown
right.
says such a beautiful testimony, and I absolutely agree with that. So I appreciate all that you've shared tonight. I mean, these are beautiful reminders to me that in the midst of responsibility, there's still room for joy. There's still room for laughter and
Mhm.
connection. And, sometimes it's not about just having extra time, it's about giving yourself permission to just pause and breathe
That's right.
and live and take in the moment without feeling guilty about it, right? That's the
That's
thing
right.
right there.
That's right.
Because you deserve that. You've earned it. You certainly have
Hmm.
earned that. So, in
Mhm.
these last couple of minutes before we close, I just wanted to give you both a chance to say anything. If you had anything that you would share with our listeners, thank you all, first of all, again, for joining us. Patricia Thomas says, definitely two phenomenal women. Thank you for sharing. If there's anything, a word of encouragement or just a takeaway, a aha moment for you, would you just share your final thoughts with us before we conclude tonight?
I just want to say, this whole session and being able to talk about what I've been through and what others I'm sure are experiencing. I do know Pat Thomas. I know that she is or has been a caregiver. Um, that's the kind of community Shar and I have been a part of for a long time. And my godkid's mom, Irish McCrae Jones, who spoke up on the session. I'm just so blessed. I constantly am grateful for the blessings in my life. As Dwayne brought up, faith is everything. So I don't worry about anymore about what's going to happen down the road. Staying in the moment,
Mhm.
celebrating Christmas, like you said, Shar.
Mhm.
It's time to pull out my Mariah Carey. I have to listen to her every year.
Mhm.
um, that kind of thing. But I've learned to celebrate and just be in the moment and not worry about what's going on down the road, because what was proven to me in the process that I went through was that it's already taken care of. He knew before I knew.
Yes.
And so I don't worry about it. I will be equipped to do whatever it is that I have to do. And I know that I will be taken care of no matter what. So, life is freer when you just live in the moment, celebrate this moment, and not put yourself and worry about what's going on down the road. Like you say, Shar, we know too much
Yeah.
because of our professions. And
Yes.
I certainly, as soon as my husband got the diagnosis, I was like, okay, this is over.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I maintained hope and went
Yeah.
through the process, but knowing what I know about that kind of diagnosis, I was like, oh my God. So, you know, learning to live in the moment has been a great help.
I think you're right on. You're spot on with that. And I feel that you always, there's a term that you want to smell your flowers while you here. I'm sorry. My phone don't usually ring. Excuse me. I don't know who hit. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. While she's
Hello?
answering her phone, let me say that I'm going to make just read a couple more comments. She'll be right back. Mary Ellen Quinn said, "Thank you, ladies, for sharing, and thank you, Shar, for being there for us." Diane Bailey says, "Thank you for sharing. I am a caregiver, and it's not an easy task." And then Kimberly Pickett, my cousin, hey, Kimberly, says, "Thank you for sharing your experiences and speaking on the importance of self-care." Thank you for those comments and saying.
Self-care is not selfish.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And thank you, Diane Bailey. Yes, I know you are a caregiver. She is one of my sisters in faith and also in NFL. She had, so I know what she's going through as well. But we have to remember to take time out in our lives and make sure you do smell the flowers and smell the roses. I remember, I got together. Sam had celebrated his 1 year anniversary, his kidneyversary, and we had a party. Remember that? And I thought, oh my goodness, yes, let's just celebrate while we can. And as you say, as Genevieve says, celebrate the moment, and we did. We were able to celebrate, and then after that, then we had a little kickback, to move. But we're going beyond that, and we're doing pretty well with that. So you do celebrate it, smell the flowers, get out. We're here we go to the beach, we go, we eat, we like to sit outside, sit inside, wherever you need to do. And that's what we do. And I'm happy. I am grateful. I do have faith. We all, know the Lord the way we need to know the Lord. And I'm blessed. And I continue with the blessings, and I am grateful and blessed. That's what we'll do.
Well, thank you. Thank you both for sharing your wisdom, for sharing your hearts with us. I know I've learned a lot, and I know that based on these comments and a number of people that joined us this evening, that you've shared some valuable information. So I thank you for that. Thank you for your resilience and taking care of those two very special men in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Thank
with
you.
that, I hope that our guests, that you'll take these messages and carry them with you, no matter where you are on your caregiving journey. And to all the caregivers watching, know that you are seen, you are valued, and you are appreciated, not just this month, but every day of the year. And so with that, I'd like to thank you all for joining us this evening. I think this was a great conversation, and we'll be having more of those. And by the way, our Sage Advice Vibrant Living podcast and season 2, episode 2, we actually did a segment on caregivers, hidden heroes, the caregiver's journey. So you can listen to that podcast wherever you listen to your audio. And we also have links on the podcast on our website, sagecollective.org. But we also want you to follow us on social media. And we want to make sure that you can get involved with our caregiver support program. So here are all of our links and ways that you can connect with us. And again, please, we welcome any of your comments and your participation in our upcoming programs. You can learn more on sagecollective.org. I'm Donna Gaines. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great evening, everyone.